Today's episode, our guest went from 30% body fat all the way down to 10% in just 90 days. But what really changed wasn't just his body, it was his entire perspective on life. Dominic discovered the power of habits and systems, and in today, you're going to hear how that shift not only transformed his health, but also how he shows up as a father, a husband, a leader, and a man. So if you've ever felt like you're too old or you're too busy to reclaim your confidence and your health, stick around. This episode is for you. Welcome to the show, Flip the Switch. Today we have a really special guest. His name is Domenic Bell. Domenic is a past client of Pallarino Partners, my headhunting firm, and then became a client of Dad Bod Sculptors. Domenic is a father of two. He is married. He is a traveling executive for an international software company, and he has decided to come out here and share his story today. We've got a special treat for you because Dom's story is not ordinary at all. He was able to go from 30% body fat down to 10% and completely transform his life. So today we want to give him a chance to kind of tell his story. Domenic, brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dane. Good to be here. And before we get started, thanks for the intro, but more importantly, thanks for the help getting to where I am for the moment. Yeah, that's been something I've been thinking about for many years, but it's just never been able to grasp it and do it, right? So you're a big part of that. So thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. It's been my pleasure. And I should say he's become a friend over the last 6 months. So it's been a great journey watching him go through this. I guess, Tom, a good place to start is first maybe just give people an introduction to kind of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. So, not to repeat what you just said, but I think, probably the thing that most people can relate to is, life's busy. I think on top of the things you just said, I've just found many reasons, or I've had a great ability to make many excuses for myself as to why not to get on with the things that I knew I wanted to do. So that's really been the big change for me over the last few months. But I think maybe just stepping back a little bit, when you say, tell people a little bit about who you are, maybe I'll, maybe try not to get too deep too quick, but give you a little bit on that. So I guess, growing up, what I've realized now, as a dad, and then sort of looking back at my childhood, I realized that, there's a lot to be said for the things that you learn in life, the things that are taught during life. But I mean, there's a saying that a friend of mine said to me a few months ago, which really stuck with me, which is the concept that, it's what is caught, not what is taught, that has really kind of resonated with me. And if I look back at my childhood, I realized that, my dad was busy and extremely hardworking. And I think that's something that I observed and it stayed with me, right? So, I mean, I've never had any trouble working hard at something. So I'm not lazy, and I have an immense capacity to do work. What I guess is lacking slightly is, the direction in which I want the work to be taking me. And making sure that I'm focused on the right thing. So, staying with that topic, there were probably a lot of things as I was growing up that I saw that perhaps, I've emulated that weren't fantastic and that haven't been immensely useful in building me into the man that I want to be. So that's kind of the backdrop and what's now fueling my journey. But the big kind of switch, or sorry to use the the name of the podcast, but the big thing that kind of really got me changing directions was almost a couple of years ago now. My dad, in his mid-70s, dropped dead. He literally was walking with my mom in a park during the summer, and one minute he was there, the next minute he was not. And it turned out he had a massive heart attack. No signs prior to that of anything wrong. He was relatively healthy for a 70-something-year-old. He played golf. He was active. He was out walking with my mom and what have you. And I guess that gave me a real shock, real scare. You realize that your parents are in many ways inside you, right? They're the building blocks of you. So, this concept that I was invulnerable and that my life could be led the way I wanted it to and everything would be okay kind of got shaken very, very hard. And that set me about looking for ways to make good on some of the things I knew really deep down inside of me were not great about the way I was living my life. So that answers your question. That's kind of like
that's amazing. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know that. Yeah, and that's kind of shocks your world when something like that happens, especially if there is no like premeditation around like he's sick and we've got to nurture him, but just like that random news is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Um, I guess so. We're on like I think 1 6 or 7 or so. I mean, what did life look like for you prior to kind of joining Dadbot Sculptors and kind of committing to a system? But most importantly, what made you kind of make that final decision to make that investment in yourself?
Well, a lot about what I just said was part of it.
Yeah,
But I think the important piece was, and it's something again that I think managed to develop a much clearer thinking about, is that I was always looking for motivation to do something about me.
yeah,
And I guess when you look around you, there's no shortage of motivation if you're attentive, right? And
yeah,
ultimately, events that happened almost a couple of years ago were a huge motivator for me, right? And ultimately, the motivator that finally got me moving. But I think what I realized was that motivation alone is not enough, right? I mean, motivation runs out.
yeah, for
That,
sure.
that moment that something hits you like a thunderbolt, from every second after that, the impact of it is diminishing, right? Over
Yeah,
time, we allow ourselves to forget and not experience things as deeply as we do at the moment that they're happening. So what I kind of realized was fundamentally lacking in my life was discipline. That's kind of like a really key word for me now. So I think the concept of how I met you through work first of all, and then noticing what you were doing with Dadbot Sculptors. A couple of key things, right? You intrigued me. I saw you transform. I was really intrigued by that. I trusted you because we had already had a very effective relationship in another world. So that got rid of all those barriers. But I think I realized at that point that I needed to be able to commit to a system, commit to something that allowed me to know every day what I needed to do, rather than just staring at this lofty goal of looking different, feeling different, but without really being totally clear about how to do it. So it brought the horizon right back down to what's today. What do I need to do today to be better than yesterday, and tomorrow to be better than today, et cetera, et cetera. And then,
yeah,
one foot after the other in a fairly short period of time, actually, I started getting to where I wanted to be, right? I mean, it's not finished yet,
yeah,
uh, but it's the most effective progress I've ever made and the most sustained progress I've ever made in this space.
yeah. And so your dad passing away, how many years ago was that?
Almost two, almost two.
Almost two. So
Yeah.
when that happened, like bring me back to kind of where you were. Did you start getting into exercise again? Were you trying to be realizing that that was an area of your life that you needed to fix along with other habits? Like what were some of those
So
decisions that you made to start getting yourself into this journey?
yeah. So listen, I mean, I've been fairly fortunate in life that I've had a passable physique without having to put too much work into it. I'm
Yeah,
tall, fairly
that
lean
helped.
build.
Yeah,
Uh, Sport's always been a very big part of my life. So I've never been completely sedentary. I've always had a level of activity in my day to day. But I mean, if I rewind the clock back to then, I was massively overweight. Probably 230, 225, 230 pounds. I wasn't measuring body fat at the time, but as you know, when we got started, we took a little marker on that, and so I probably realistically was back then already around about the 30% body fat level. And I mean, I would play a bit of tennis, play a bit of golf, swim every now and again, but I mean, it was never intention. Like it was never really like fully committed exercise. I definitely wasn't operating anywhere near my full potential, not pushing myself,
yeah,
and as a result, probably just kidding myself that I was, still pretty active and looking after myself. So there were a couple of things that were happening under the surface. You have your physical every year, and your doc says, your cholesterols are high, your triglycerides are high. Oh, look at your blood pressure. That's not looking so great. Hypertension level 1, but how about we
yeah,
do some medications? And I'm like, I don't want to be on medications every day, man. I want to fix it. There were in reality, there were a lot of things that if I had been eyes open, would have led me to, probably want to act a little sooner. But I mean, I think denial, right? I mean, you just, everything will be okay. There's people out there that look worse than me, do less than me. So I'm good. I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's
Man, that's so relatable, not only to me, but so many other guys out there. It's like I was 30% body fat and I was part of entrepreneurial groups locally. I was part of leading other CEOs. So like I looked like them. Like, so there was no like, I didn't feel totally out of place, right? I wasn't obese, but I wasn't above average. I was just kind of fit into the crowd. And then there's also that moment of like going to a doctor and realizing like, wait a minute, these are like old guy problems. Like, what do you mean high blood pressure and cholesterol and some guys pre-diabetic and yeah, and it's like this reactive state of like almost cognitive dissonance. Like, how's this possible? And like now I'm this person. And then that voice inside, I think, for the guys that do end up putting the energy towards the transformation, it's like there's this conscious calling of like, no, this isn't the way that it's supposed to be.
yeah,
And I also felt that for me, it was like I went and had my blood pressure taken, and I was hoping he was going to tell me like, hey, we got a quick solution for you, and he was like, man, it's just life decisions. I had a really good doctor that wasn't just into writing scripts. Like he was like, yeah, we can put you on things, but honestly, you just need to make have better habits. And that was like, damn, so this is on me. And so I eventually figured out how to do that. So for
yeah,
you, I think it's very common because our story is very relatable. Like we prioritize our success. We're hardworking. We're hard charging. We have discipline. We have systems that scale us to a financial place of providing and protecting. But there's a cost to that, and that cost is like your health. And you don't realize it's either A, you look in the mirror and you feel like I don't look good in my skin, or B, you get some markers that are like, hey, wait a minute, somebody's shaken me and told me like these aren't where they need to be.
yeah.
And so for you, it's kind of a little bit of both. Let's bring people to, I guess, the process of the habits that you had that maybe led to that point because you're working hard, you've got a family, so you're busy there. Like, what were some of the other habits, whether it was eating or inconsistency with training or drinking, that you kind of really felt like I gotta cut the cord on some of these things?
Sure. So I mean, I already covered the discipline of training, right? I mean,
Yeah.
wasn't there, right? It was just kidding myself that the sort of social social sporting engagements was working out. Not really. It was exactly what I was just saying, right? It was social sporting events. Um, but I mean, listen, again, I'm a pretty, I would say, sort of average case of most men of my age for the moment. But alcohol became a very convenient, easy way to relax. Not in a crazy way, but just before you know it, you're having a glass of something or two every day. Which right now, looking back at it, I'm like, how does that normalize so easily?
Right.
And I think two things, right? Because it's just very, very incremental degradation of your standards, and you just
Yeah.
don't realize until you are where you are. And because it's happening to everywhere around you, right? I mean, you can't walk into someone else's house without them saying, "You want a beer, bro?" And
Yeah. 100%.
it's just actually a big problem even now, right? When you decide to go a different path, a lot of people look at you like, what do you mean? And you're like, it's 5 o'clock and I still got stuff to do, man. That's like, uh, so that's one of them. And food. I guess I ate too much of the wrong things, but not necessarily like completely unhealthy.
Yeah.
But it's funny how all these things pack together, right? Because I mean, it's like one beer leads to you having another beer, leads to you then having an unhealthy snack, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Also leads to you eating stuff that you don't really need to. Spending 2 hours in front of the telly at night, so much easier to do after you've had a drink or two. But then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, well, I'm sitting in front of the TV. I need a snack. It just all of it I wasn't aware of. All of it was just habitual, connected behaviors that I just was very comfortable with. Frankly, the only thing I wasn't comfortable with was what it was doing to me when I looked in the mirror. Uh, Even that I didn't notice for a while. Even that I was just like, yeah, I'll get to this some point. I would
Yeah.
stand, pull my stomach in, and go, it can't be that hard to do that. I'll get to it.
Yeah.
But I just never did.
And the way we dress for work too, it's like the button ups. You can hide a lot of that for a while. You just buy another pair of pants, another shirt, and it's like, oh, okay, there you don't see it anymore. And I realized like I was rotating like three outfits because they were the only ones that like didn't show my physique, and they worked for me. All right,
That's
so
fine.
this,
I was 33-inch waist, then I was 34-inch waist, then I was 36-inch waist,
yeah,
and it just and you do right. It's pants are worn out. I'm going to buy some new pants. It wasn't like I've just outgrown my pants. What's going on? It's just like the natural. Oh, these fit better. Maybe they're cut differently, right?
Yeah,
But that's
that's
funny.
right.
Funny. Just
Yeah. Dude, it's like, and it also like it's like the slow boiling frog. I always say that, like you don't know what's boiling over time. Just each day is getting worse. The habits are building upon each other. As much as they can build positively, they can build negatively. The habits they start stacking and building momentum, and next thing you know, like it's just the norm. For me, it was the same thing. It was drinking and then having a little bit of ice cream, and then adding some cake to the ice cream, and then having cake and ice cream every night with drinks. Then you're sleeping poorly. Then you're waking up and you're wanting to fix the hangover, then you're eating another bad meal. It's like that just stacks. And then you're waiting to the end of the day because now you feel like crap during work, and now you're waiting to escape again, and then that becomes normalized because
my,
you're doing the duty. Go ahead.
my son had a piece of candy last night. Like every now and again, can I have candy, Dad? It's like, I don't
Yeah,
want to, but sure. And I was looking at the wrapper afterwards, and it was like, one serving, 5 pieces of these like little candies. And I don't know, it's like 110 calories, but what you read down a little bit more, 27 grams of added sugar.
it's crazy.
And I was like, that was also one of my vices. I mean, I could easily sit on the couch and have 25 of those over the course of a week.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, that's like quarter of your daily calorie allowance and more
yeah,
sugar than you could, ever imagine you would be taking in one serving of anything, right? And
yeah,
again, no awareness, no immediate consequence, so therefore no kind of wake up, and
yeah.
and slippery slope is well on its way.
You do, yeah. You don't know till you don't know what you don't know until you start to know. You start to get the information around what it is, and then you put the hard work in, and then you see how that quantifies, and you're like, what? Like 180 calories for one of these little things? You're like, that's like 30 minutes on a treadmill. Yeah. All right, man. So then bring it. So now we got an idea where you were. You and I, we had this conversation about 6 months ago. Before joining, were there any hesitations in joining? Not so much because you already had the trust with me, which a lot of guys sometimes do. Like 50% of the guys do, 50% of them don't. But were there any hesitations like, I do deserve this, or maybe it is. It's maybe I should try a little longer at my own. Like, were there any things that you needed to think about? Because I think that's a big one for guys. Like they know they need to do it, they want to do it, but they don't actually do what you did, and they don't actually take that first step and just say, all right, I'm going to jump.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I can wrap that up in a bow and give it to you like the answer.
Yeah.
I I've thought about it several times, like what actually kind of just maybe just go yes. Because I mean, you and I we talked about this. We'd spoken before, right? But we spoke about this for 15 minutes, and at the
Yep.
end of 15 minutes, I just went, "Let's go." You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think I just wanted it badly enough, Dane. I think that's my poor but best answer, which is, I think if you don't act, you just haven't, you're not ready yet. You just haven't got to that point of realization where you just want the change badly enough that you're going to do what's required to make the change, right? I mean, I think that's the same with everything in life, right?
Yeah.
Most things worth having are hard, but hard doesn't scare you if you want the thing badly enough, right? But it'll
100%.
put you off faster than you can realize what's happened if you're not really interested, right? Which is why direction is so important, right? You've got to be clear on where you're trying to try to get to. But Dane, I mean, I think me personally, I like to understand what I'm doing. You were willing to there and since then, without fail, continuously, you've always been willing to explain, not just trust me, you got to do this. I've done it. Look at me. You're always willing to break it down and explain it so that I can make it something that I can take on and want to do. Um, and I mean, you just continue to provide enough proof that it works as well, right? I mean, you don't show us a picture of you before and a picture of you now, and we don't know how old the pictures are. I mean, I see you, I can't help it, every day, even when we don't, right? Because you're everywhere.
Thanks, AI.
Um, but it's good. It's good. So it's not over the top. It's not too much. It's good. I mean, I actually enjoy you popping up on a feed, even if that's not what I'm looking for every now and again, because it's just every day I get to see something that I'm not yet, but that I know I'm working towards, and every day it'll renew the drive, right? So it's not motivation, right? It's the drive that
Yeah.
ignites the discipline that I'm willing to put into this.
Yep.
Um, you forget what you don't see. Right? You have to see stuff every day to remember what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, because motivation is fleeting, like you said. All right, so now you and I we agree. You're like, let's do it, which I love about you. Like all of the guys that have joined my program, there's always this point on the call where it's not a sales tactic. It's really just like I'm looking for men that are decisive, and men that are always decisive on that call. 100% of the time, those are all the guys that are on my website. Those are all the guys in the testimonial section because there's this switch. Of like, let's go. Like, just give me the blueprint, right? Give me the habits. Give me the system. I'm ready to work. So you and I, we get started. You jump in both feet, and you're asking a lot of questions, which the best guys do. What surprised you most about the process in the first 30 days?
How easy it is. And I want to be really, really clear about the difference between easy. Sorry, excuse me. Can I just take that back?
Yeah,
Rewind. How
retract.
simple it is. How
Simple.
simple it is. And I
Yeah,
want to distinguish between simple and easy. So
yeah,
excuse me, I completely messed that up. But it's not complicated, right? I mean, again, doesn't mean you can guess how to do it.
yeah.
Simplicity of it comes with a lot of research that you've done in order to be able to lay it down, right? I mean, you've ultimately taken complex and made it simple. That's the value, I think, hugely part of the value that you deliver. Um, but it's hard, right? It's hard to commit. It's hard to stay the course. It's hard to do the things that you need to do to get the greatness you're looking for.
Yeah.
But it is not complicated, right? I mean, there's no formula, right? I mean, you don't have to be standing on one foot. You just have to do the thing. You just have to follow the routine, right?
That's right.
That was surprising because ultimately the results are. Yeah, I should feel confident enough to say the results are exceptional,
Yeah,
and it is really nice to see that you can get exceptional results through a very, very serious commitment to a simple process.
that's it. 100%. Yeah, it's simple, but it's not easy, and that's exactly the right phrasing, I think, for sure. When you stepped into the system, there like some people know my system because they've been on it. Some people they have pieces of it, but it's laid out so that every kind of couple hours you have this little milestone. And for you, what do you think had the biggest impact on the results for you, whether it was the systems or the habits? Like if you had to attribute, like, man, when I started to really get this right, things started to make a difference for me. Was it mindset? Was it the training? Was it the nutrition? Was it the morning protocol drink that you love?
Yeah, so we might go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I guess that's okay. So, I mean, there were parts of the program. So, first of all, right, you got to establish that trust, right? So,
Yeah,
I got to a place where, as much as I wanted to ask questions about everything, I also realized that you got to start moving, Dom, and we can ask the questions as we move, right?
yep,
Don't just sit here and ask a billion questions because there'll always be one more question and always another reason not to start, right? So, I
easy.
was already in that mindset, right? You got to trust this guy and we got to start moving. But along the
Yep,
way, it's okay to want to understand why we're doing all these things. So
yep,
here's a great example. Morning protocol. I'm sure there are nutritional benefits to the morning protocol. 100%, right? I'm taking vitamins, or as you call them, vitamins, but the green macros, etc. Blah, blah, blah. But what I realize now is that was the start of the day. That was your first commitment to discipline for the day.
yep.
When you're standing there at 5:30 in the morning with your cup of warm water, putting your little, magical potion together, what you're really doing is you're committing to your day ahead, right? And I
Yeah,
didn't, I didn't get that for maybe like a month. I remember like going back and forth with you, like, oh, apple cider vinegar is making me sick. It actually made me vomit one day, and stuff.
yeah,
And you're like, just well, take it out. And I'm like, in my head, I didn't say so. I'm like, but am I going to lose some of the benefit? You're like, no, just do the protocol, man. Just get on with it.
yeah,
Don't find a reason not to do it. Yeah. So that was an interesting realization. Again, keep bringing it back to discipline. I know, but then also just the food, right? I mean, it's if you want to lose 50 pounds, there's no two ways about it, right? You're going to need to eat a very limited set of foods, right? Things that are literally going to be supporting what you're trying to do. And every time you say, just one slip or one move, it's okay, right? Life's life. There are going to be situations where you just don't have access to what you need. I
yeah,
do, definitely. I mean, I'm about to embark next week on a week of 4 days travel, 3 cities, taking a plane every day. I am going to be in a position where at some point the meal I need is not going to be available. but you just got to realize, well, okay, your goal's just got a day further away, and that was what I realized also is right. The sooner we get really committed to the food side of things, the sooner we will get to where we need to be, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So that was it for me. It's like, it was the just getting into the systematic execution and realizing that, the more you commit, the faster you get there. The more you give yourself, freedom to deviate or take a
Yep.
a day off or what have you. Well, I mean, it may not even be about delaying. It may actually set you back. It may actually now you're one day of cheating, 2 days away from your target, right?
Yeah.
So that was, but again, lots of little things. Dane. It wasn't by design. It wasn't magical. But there are things that you
They
just have
start
to take
clicking.
on. Right? They take a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. I remember there was a point too, like the protocol was a thing with you, and okay, we'll just remove that, and you eventually, I think you bought the apple cider vinegar pills, so that's good, right? But it's that thing of getting up and having that first milestone that says I'm taking care of self,
Yep.
right? That before the negative thoughts start coming in, before the emails start coming in, I'm prioritizing myself, and then you start to kind of consume those things, and then the meals, right? So simple, not easy. The simple means like a simple carb, a simple protein, a simple fat, but all are optimal for you. And I remember one point you said like, "Is it just chicken, man? Because I'm going to start growing some feathers." And I said, "Well, you could swap it. Like there's some other ones." And then it was like 30 days later, you're like, "No, I love that I don't have to think about this anymore. Like it's just on repeat now. Like this is all the decisions I got to make." Because as a busy executive, like you're traveling, you got kids, like you've got a whole team that reports to you. Like there's a lot of decisions that you're forced to make in a day. And I'd love to know, like, how for some of the people that follow, because a lot of our guys are leaders, they're CEOs, they're busy. How did having structure help you stay consistent with your busy schedule? Because travel comes up, meetings that come up. Like, how did you find? Was it cumbersome, or was it something you then became dependent on?
Well, I mean, I think the term is decision fatigue, right? So I think, yeah, the day for all of us is full of decisions. And, after a while, excuse me, after a while, if you can eliminate unnecessary decisions, you're just ultimately making your day a little easier. And you are, freeing up mind space to worry about and think about the things where the decisions matter, right?
Yeah.
It's funny what you were saying about the, well, Dom, you should switch the chicken. Man, there are other options. I'm like, now I'm at a point where I almost, when I get into the sort of, oh, today's like beef, and I'm like, oh, damn it, I'm just going to do the chicken. It's just easier. I don't want to cook something separate, right? I just want to grab another piece of chicken. I'm on autopilot with that, right?
Yeah.
But importantly, right? I mean, one of the things I think we talked about a lot as well was at the beginning, the eating habit, or the eating program, made it difficult because of when my family ate and what my family eats,
Yeah.
kind of took it apart a little bit, right? Because I was doing my own thing. But I mean, it was temporary. We're having dinner together again every night. And there's two things, right? I've kind of done the losing weight. I'm now trying to do something different, which means the variety of food I'm eating is a little broader. But also what's happened is that, the family's converged on some of the things I'm eating, because over time you do figure out how to make chicken really, really tasty,
Yeah.
without it being bad for you. So actually, my son will pick at some of that and goes, I like that. I don't want chicken nuggets tonight. I want that, and you're like, so that's pretty cool.
That's great.
Um, so then that makes it easier. If the habit becomes a family habit, no problem, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, there's so many things when you start understanding, which is why understanding is so important to me. When you start understanding what's good and what's bad and why it's good and why it's bad, there's actually a world of food that you can eat, right? I mean, it is not dry chicken, broccoli, rice, and
Yeah.
that's it. And if not,
Yeah.
you're never going to make it. And I think once you get to that place, you're good. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, there's a period where you have to bite down. That's a really good point because a lot of guys ask me that question before joining. Like, well, I want to eat dinner with my family every night. Like, I know how I handled it, but how did you handle that? Because that was a question I remember you specifically asked. Like, I don't want to be isolated in the corner with my family. Like, did you still eat dinner with them? Did you eat something different? How did they respond? And like, how did you get through that awkwardness?
Well, took a while, took a bit of adjusting, right? Because ultimately, at the start, I didn't. It's simple as, right? I mean, at the times that I was trying to eat at around working out in the evening, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was important enough to me that I came back to you and I said, Dane, this is not sustainable, right? We agreed this has to be sustainable. If I have a life of not eating with my family, it's not going to last because that's important to me. That's part of where the family connects. It's part of where I talk to my kids. That's critical to me.
Yeah.
So you cut a meal out, right? I mean, you just say, right, fine. Then let's not keep trying to do this many meals. Let's cut one. We can move it, and there you go. That's 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock work for you, and you're like, yeah, that's when my kids eat. So, and then my wife was gracious enough to agree with what we used to do was we used to feed the kids and then sit with them, and then we would eat together like at 8:30 and have our time around eating. And she was gracious enough to change her habits on that because that didn't fit for me anymore. I mean, finishing dinner at 9:15 just doesn't work. I'm up
Yeah.
at 5 in the morning most days. I need to be eating earlier. Simple as that. So now we eat with the kids, and it's different because I mean, anyone that's got kids under 10, well, I got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. Not every dinner is a calm conversational exchange. Sometimes it's just not pleasant. But but most of them are, and you just got to stick with it, right? But so yeah, so it took time, but everybody gave a little bit, and now we have what we wanted as a family, which is good.
Yeah. It took you being the leader there. I applaud you for doing that because I had to go through the same thing. And I tell guys, like, my kids aren't going to be like sipping beers in the back of a car at 18, being like, my dad never had dinner with me. He always ate something different. I was like, I doubt they're going to be scarred from 3 months of me like eating differently from them. But we always eat dinner too as a family. I just eat different, or sometimes they eat the same, and I just eat different portions. But then when they saw the change in physique, they started to then become curious about, well, Dad, why do you eat that? And what? And so, like for you too, like talking about the results, they had to have recognized from day one to day 90, like Dad's eating different, he's training more, like he's changing a little bit, and then they see the results. Was there any initial response from your kids or from your wife where it was like, oh, now I see what you're doing and why you might be doing it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a overt kind of like declaration of understanding from them. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's just little things, right? I gave you an example of my son kind of dipping his fingers into my plate and, oh, that's really nice, and Mom, I want that now, and my wife has always been a very clean eater, but I mean, there are a lot of things that we eat that are the same now. So it's more back to where we started this conversation, right? It's more the sort of what is caught rather than what is taught. I'm not preaching. God knows I got nothing to preach about. But I'm just trying to just do right, and
Yeah.
slowly, some of the things that I'm doing, they're doing, and I think that's great. And the things they choose not to do, that's okay too, right? I mean, I'm probably still not doing much of it. I'm pretty not doing something that's right for everyone.
Yeah.
Uh, so again, right? It's slow convergence. I call it that, slow convergence. Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's a consistency beats intensity every time. And I love that you just kept leaning into the habits. And the more results you saw, the more invested and more energy you put behind the habits in the system. And always asking questions, right? Like not just being told what to do, but why am I doing this? And we went back and forth on all the different stages, which I loved. Like it was like when you understand the why as you wanted to, like you become competent, and that competency breeds confidence, right? And it's like, oh, this is sustainable. And no, you don't have to eat at these markets. Like, hey, this is when my family eats. Okay, let's adjust, shift the day a little bit so that we still hit our goal and we still, make the people around us feel inclusive. And you did that really well. So I think the thing that I noticed from you and most other people is like you were like a dog on a bone, like you were like, I want this, and like you were intentional every single day. And if you didn't, or you made a mistake when you got some success, and then you're like, oh, I got some success, and then you saw how like sabotaging that a little bit with too many meals or a drink here and there, and then I'd say, hey man, have grace, like we fail forward here, and you'd get right back on the horse. And that's the important thing, right? Because you're always gonna have these little setbacks that happen in a journey, but it's like not allowing that negative self-talk to consume you and bring you back to the old habit and the old version, because that's where self-sabotage comes in, and that's one of the biggest things that keeps guys back. But you kept leaning into the better version of yourself, and I think having the relationship that we had and me maybe being a little further ahead of you, you kept leaning into like, I got to get there, but you weren't validating yourself on the results. I think the first 30 days you kept maybe overthinking the result piece, and we kept dialing it. Go back to the daily activity, go back to the habits, get better at those, the results will come. And then day 60 through 90, I think that's when it really clicked for you, at least from my experience coaching you.
Yep.
When
I
did
think,
you feel? Yeah, good.
yeah, I just wanted to sort of insert here. I mean, it's clear that what you put out there, and the first thing that you help guys with is their body, right? I mean,
Yeah.
get reclaiming their body. But I mean, I wanted. I'm pretty sure it's intentional from our conversations and from what I see of you. But I mean, I want to give you credit also for the fact that it doesn't stop there, right? I mean, I think the body is a great place to start because, like with anything, when you go after change, you kind of want to find some validation for your efforts, right? I mean, we're a very sort of reward orientated creatures, right?
Yep.
We do work and we want to see the payback for our work.
For sure.
Often in today's world, we want to see instant payback for our efforts. But I think over 90 days, when you can see what you can do, right? I mean, when I look at a picture of myself before we started and after I started, I'm like, wow, this is what work in the
Yeah.
work orientated in the right direction, right? The right type of work can do
Yeah.
for you. But it set off alarm bells for me, man. It started. I mean, basically, what it said to me was how deeply inside myself, inside my ability, I've been playing physically, right? I mean, this is my potential, and for so many years, I've been so far from it. Right? I've been playing. I don't know how you say that, but playing inside myself. I haven't been playing outside myself. I haven't really sort of been going for it. But then it's kind of been waking me up to. I mean, I see me as being three things, right? There is my body, but then there's my mind, and lots of people call it different things, but I just say my heart, right? My essence in that respect. And I started going like, are you pushing yourself in your mind, right? I mean, are you learning? Are you educating yourself?
Yeah.
I used to read quite a bit, and then I looked back and I went, dude, I read two books last year, maybe. Uh, so it lit a fire there, and I kind of said, well, what kind of little change could you make, right? I mean, we always think, oh, I haven't got time to read and everything. It's like, well, how long does it take you to read 10 pages?
Yeah.
Not that long, 15 minutes. Okay, so can you read for 15 minutes every day? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I definitely do something for 15 minutes that has no value. So
Yeah.
let's just put that in. And all of a sudden, you know, 20, 30 days later, you read a book. Like minimum, you're going to crush 12 books in a year just doing that, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes like that relit a fire. I mean, here we are sitting, what is it, 16th, 15th, 16th of February. And, I'm on my fourth book for the year. Like non-fiction books that are about sort of just leveling up, right? Like that's just, what don't I know that I could just be doing better, right?
Yeah.
So that's growing. And then I look to the other side and I go, so how much effort, like, am I putting that level of discipline and effort into bringing my kids up and my marriage? Nope.
No.
Sad to say that. I'm not smiling.
Yeah.
I'm ashamed actually to
Honest.
say that. But I mean, so I think I mentioned the other day, right? It's like all of a sudden I'm looking at this little stool with three little legs, and you helped me like extend one of them, and now I got this thing I can't sit on anymore because it's like this stool's got one long leg and two short legs.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's kind of just made me want to like attack everything. So like all of a sudden it was body and like exercise nutrition to do that. Then it was like mind. It's like I want to educate myself. I want to keep growing. I used to be like that when I was a kid, and
Yeah.
then I just once you've taken care of yourself, like I mean, are you taking care of the people that you care about? Are you caring for them in the way that you could? And the
Yeah.
answer to that is unilaterally, not as well as I could, not as well as I could, and I want to do better. So like, what does that look like? So I mean, Dane, thank you for the body, but more than that, because that's I'm over that now. It's not that's just who I am.
Yeah.
Thank you for igniting me to look at things that I hadn't even stopped to look at yet. You know?
Yeah, man, I appreciate that so much because that's exactly it, man. It's like I'm super passionate in this area, and it's because when we're creating a better version of ourselves, we're just using training and nutrition as pieces of the puzzle to get the momentum going, to start seeing the change. But once you get out of the way, right, you remove yourself as the main problem because most of us are the problem, then the world becomes your oyster in terms of self development. You continue wanting to develop self, and am I treating my partner the right way? Am I being short with my kids and giving them the attention they need? If I'm going to put all this attention into my training and my nutrition and my recovery, right, and my cardio, Am I also doing that for my wife? Am I also doing that for my kid? Am I also doing that to grow my business? And when you start to question yourself, you can't leave that question unanswered. No, I'm not. Okay, well, how do I apply the same system, right? Something that's simple to this area of my relationship with my wife and
Yeah.
to my kids. And so I love that you shared that, because that's exactly what I try to teach guys. Like, once we get you out of your own way, you're going to become the center of influence to how everyone else responds, because all these habits that you have are going to be caught. You can't teach them to your kids. You can't teach them to your wife. They're going to watch as you do. And when you put that much into getting better on self, like, same thing, like those daily habits then put you to a place to where always, every day, you're creating the happiness that you know you deserve. And then that leaks into every other area. I can't tell you, man, I used to yell at my kids pretty frequently. I have not yelled at my kids in over 3 years. Oh, I don't think, maybe, yeah. I mean, once I got me right, I stopped being short. I stopped being irritable. I stopped pointing the fingers. And because I started to realize, like, I can fix this. I can fix this, right? They don't need to fix this. Like, this is on me. And to hear you go through that journey, like some of the other guys in the program, that's what it's about, right? You're not buying a meal plan and a training plan. Like, those are pieces of the puzzle to start working on self, because physical fitness is the greatest form of self-love and self-development. And then once you get on that journey, then you become forever hooked. That's how it's sustainable, because the motivation is fleeting. If you're chasing the 15 pounds or the 10% body fat, when you get there, you will sabotage it. But if you're chasing a better life, a better version every day, like you've told me privately, like, you're now waking, instead of like snooze button, you're waking up and can't wait to kind of get that day started. And I think that leads to kind of my next question, like, how has this shift impacted your energy, your confidence, and how you show up in all those other areas? Like, I'd love people to hear that, because I know you've shared it with me, but from where you were and to where you are now, like,
Yeah.
as
So,
46 years old, I think, right?
47. I know I look
47
at, but you probably give me a year back, so I'll take the 40.
now. Take it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you hear I used to say it, right? You hear people say, "Oh, I'm just not a morning person," right? I mean,
Yeah.
I know that scientifically, apparently, there are different types. Some people are evening types, some people are morning types, stuff. But I mean, just getting your day started is about whether you want to or not, right? I mean, for me, it's that simple, right? I mean, you hitting the snooze button is because you have nothing exciting that
To
you
get
want
up
to
with.
put out of bed and go do. Um, so I was not a morning person, and yet now I get up every morning at 5 a.m. at the latest, right? In fact, on Mondays and Fridays, I get up at 4:30 so that I can do my morning protocol and be on a tennis court by 5:30. So it just, and I look forward to it. I mean, I don't go to bed on a Sunday night going, oh my God, I get up so late. So I go to bed on a Sunday night going, yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
go and actually hang with a guy I really like, do something I really like, and I'm going to get my day started with more energy than 99.9% of the rest of the country, right?
Right.
So energy through the roof, right? I mean, and the drive, and it's not like I don't set an alarm the next day, go, oh God, I got to set 3 alarms and force myself. Like sometimes I even wake up before the alarm because I'm ready to go. You got to watch that a little bit if you got to get to bed at night, otherwise the sort of diminished
100%.
sleep can be a bit of a problem. Um, but I mean, like when I'm doing things, I'm more committed to them. But again, I'll come back to this word discipline, right? Which is instilled through just doing these things. Is so like the other night, we had some friends from out of town. They live in Australia, so you're going to make an effort to meet up. And they wanted to go out for dinner in New York. We couldn't get a table till 9:30 at night. I mean, I'm like, wow. um, so we headed into my wife and I headed into the city. Two other couples meet up, six of us. We have dinner. We finish dinner at midnight. They want to like go on somewhere, so we go on to a rooftop bar somewhere in New York. Cool DJ. Basically, 3 a.m. We're leaving at 3 a.m. in the morning. We're
Oh my
still
goodness.
there, getting ready to come home. And two things I'll say, just a little sidestep here. So I knew I'm with friends there because again, I'm doing what I'm doing for the moment. Not once through the night did I have somebody saying, "Come on, man, you got to get drunk with us." They did them, I did me, and we just had a great night, and
Yeah.
everybody was just cool with how we are. So that's the people I want to hang out with. There's a lot of people that are not comfortable with what I'm trying to do for the moment. Anyway, 3 a.m., get in the car, drive home, get to bed 3:30, 3:45. Um, up at 7 because the kids are up at 7. They don't care we were out at night.
That's right.
Um, and so here's the following day, right? So I'll write that script. I'll play you both scripts, right? There's the script, the old me, who would have indulged the night before, would have got up for the kids, but grumpy as hell. I would have probably reached for anything but what I know I want to eat, what my body really wants me to eat that day. I would have started the day off food wise in the wrong direction.
Yep.
I'd be grouchy with my kids. I would have written off plans. I would have not gone to the gym. But this script, I mean, I woke up, I had my eggs in the morning. An hour and a half later, my daughter and I sat down and we did some water painting for an hour and a half. I mean, like, never in a million years would I have found the patience or the desire to do that. But I actually wanted to do that with her, made her so happy. And I work out twice a day. I got my walk in outside, and I got to the gym later on in the afternoon, actually evening. And I've got a good chest workout in at the gym. And it required some effort. I'm not trying to say that that's
It was a
easy,
conscious
right?
effort.
but I but I did it, and
Yeah.
there was just never any question in my mind that I wasn't going to do it. That's the change. That's what's completely changed. There was never a doubt in my mind
Yeah.
that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I want to be
Yeah.
clear about it. I didn't want to do it, but I was going to do it, and I did do it, and I'm glad I did it because then I wake up today and I don't look back at yesterday going, oh, I'm like, yeah, yesterday was hard. And today's actually going to be so much easier because I got some
Yeah.
sleep. I feel good.
Yeah, dude. I 100% get it. I like these are little things to where when you have the system that you can wake up and jump right back into, it makes life so much better. We become better because of that. Like because you're not spending the day after regretting the decisions from the night before, and then that leaks into the next day. You start judging yourself. You start speaking negatively to yourself. Then you pick foods that you know that are going to be comforting so that the thoughts stop and I feel better in this moment. So we're always acting from a place of just impulsivity and feeling good because we worked hard or we went out and ate hard. Yeah, that was some of the things for me too. Like when my wife and I would drink and the kids and I get up and I was like, yeah, this is not sustainable. Like you can't sleep in. Like these kids are still here. Like, and it's just like it tied into like this isn't who I want to be for them. And yeah, so I still go out socially and still have those moments, but I just make better decisions because I know like, hey, I feel best in the system, and those guardrails really help me become a better version of myself for them, and that's who I care about showing up for every day, right? Like I don't want them to have grouchy dad tomorrow because dad had a good time the night before, and so I love hearing that because that's when you really know like you've stepped into just a better version of yourself and you're not fully baked, and that's the best part. Like you're never going to be fully baked, you're just going to always find something to keep unpacking. That's what I really want guys to listen to from this experience with Dominic. Like if other guys are stuck right now, what would you say to them being where you are from where you were? What would your advice to them be?
So it's always hard to talk about giving advice because, like you said, right, it's not fully baked yet. I'm super conscious. It was one of the things that kind of made me apprehensive about doing this, right? Is have I have I done this enough yet to be at a place where I can, or that if people perceive that I'm trying to give advice, that it feels that it's credible and that I deserve to be able to do it. So I definitely still have a lot to do. I mean, that was a great story. You know very well from the last 9 months. There's also been times where I fell off, right? And as you said earlier on, you encourage grace and looking forward, right? I mean, just don't have two bad days in a row, but we all have bad days. Try not to let the negative habits settle in. So, I mean, back to your question, what would I say? Let me just say, this is what I would say about myself for other people to consume as they wish, right? Anyone can do this. I'm not exceptional. In fact, in many ways, far from it. Like I said right at the beginning of this, right? One of the only things that I have that really, I have a few things, right? But one of the things that I know I have undeniably is a capacity to do work, right? I mean, that has been instilled in me since the day I can remember in my life. Um, you got to do the work, right? We live in a world where instant gratification is the thing.
Yeah.
Everybody wants the results without doing the work. If you're not going to do the work, don't start because you just won't get there, right? And then
Yeah.
you'll blame the program, you'll blame everything around you because that's who you are because you don't want to do the work. But you can, right? You can do the work. It's not complicated and it's actually not out of reach, right? It's just literally step, right? That's what it is, right? If you can't lift 80 pounds, lift 60 pounds. You can't lift 60 pounds, lift 40 pounds, right? If you can't eat 5 meals a day, eat four. Just you have to reconstruct how it works, right? So just don't make excuses. I guess if I'm going to leave one thing, you said what was it? Just don't make excuses. Just trust it, do it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. They've got to believe in themselves that they can do it. And as we age, I think that belief gets less and less. And you have to have that kind of determination, like, no, I can do it. And you got to trust the process. You got to take that first step, and you walk before you run. But now I would say you're definitely running. Like you found your stride. You're even doing 75 hard. Like you're like you stepped into this discipline. The system requires discipline, but then you're like, I'm getting weak on my discipline. I'm going to step it up. I'm going to do 75 hard in parallel to this lifestyle. And like that just takes a special human being. So I applaud
And,
you for that.
and you learn lessons from that too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't talked about little details, right? I mean, little details can make you great. Little details can break you too. I mean, you mentioned you mentioned it. Yeah, I decided at the start of this year to do 75 hard. Simple version of this, if 75 days. Got loads of people say, "How long are you doing it for?" I'm like, 75 days. Um, and basically, it's just 6 things, right? You got to do 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. You need to stick to a meal plan. You can't drink alcohol. You need to drink a gallon of water. You need to read 10 pages of an actual book, nonfiction a day, and you need to take a progress picture, right? And I screwed it up twice at the start. And by the way, if you screw up on any one of them, you have to go back to day one,
Start
right?
over.
There's no like, oh, have grace, tomorrow will be better. You could have grace, but you got to start over.
Yeah.
And I had to restart twice. And one of them is I woke up at 2 in the morning and damn, I didn't take the progress pic, right? So I was like, little details, right? I mean, you look at it and you go, well, how's that got anything to do with anything? It's like, well, it's about not missing the little details and you missed it. So start again.
Yep.
And then the second one was, I did I did an outdoor workout for almost 2 hours, and I was like, "Tick, that's my 2 45-minute workouts." And then somebody explained to me, "You can't do that. It's two separate workouts. They can't be back to back, and they have to be different, right?" And I'm like, "Well," and he's, "Yeah, it's about it being inconvenient. It's about not cutting the corner and going, well, I'll just do a little bit more here, and then I won't do the thing I know I need to do later on. It's
Yes.
just you commit to both of them." Here's another story. I was in town with my team in Philadelphia, so about 75, 80 miles away from here on Tuesday, and we had a dinner for one of the guys who's leaving. So I went to the dinner and everything. Snowstorm started. I got in the car at 9 o'clock to drive home. It would usually be about an hour and a half. It took me almost 2.5 hours to get home. And I had done my outdoor workout, but I had not done my second workout. So my gym, fortunately, is open super late, almost 24 hours. So I got home, grabbed my gym gear, and went to the gym and got 45 minutes in, which is
Wow.
crazy, right? I mean, I'm not
Great.
advocating that's kind of where you
Yeah.
have to be, but I've
Committed
committed to
though,
the
man.
program and I would have failed it and had to start all over again if I hadn't done it. So I did it, right? And I love that because that's still while I'm growing and while I'm trying to, get to where I want to get to. Things like that just help provide that little bit of extra accountability and reason to exercise the discipline. I mean, there's a lot of worlds in which you would let that last workout go. And
Yes.
I would have probably let it go if I wasn't at risk of having to go. I mean, today I'm halfway through the program, day 38, and this was only a few days ago. So I would have given up on a month of the program just because I couldn't make it to the gym. So it was a no-brainer. I just grabbed my stuff and to the gym I went and got it done.
Man, I love it, man. It's just it's intense, and I think that's the point. It's not forever, but it's for 75 days, and it's to prove to yourself that you can do it, and you can pay attention to the details, no matter how big or small they are. You pay attention to them, and you do it. And so I think that the habits have stacked for you consistently and they're building momentum, but it's also building you into this version of yourself that you've never seen, that the world's never seen. And that's becoming an offering to a lot of people. I mean, I know we've shared your story on a couple of platforms, and it inspired many men to go and take action, you know, and I think we talked about it privately. It's like men know they need to do this, they want to do it, but they need to kind of see somebody they know do it before they take that action. And so when you remove yourself out of the equation and you publicly go out there, and we're not perfect, and the journey's always going to continue to develop, but you're further ahead than a lot of people. And a lot of people, I think, need to hear this because they can relate to where you were and they love to be where you are, in that place of like, man, I wish I had that grit. I wish I had that resilience. I wish I had that drive to go want to continue scraping off the old skin and building back better. And that's impacting you as a leader, man, and in all areas.
100%. So there's two gifts that I've received this year, that are just incredible, and I wish them on anybody else. I wish anybody else to receive these gifts. One is I have renewed, if it was ever there, or received if it wasn't, the gift of knowing that I now keep promises to myself. You
Yeah,
said that a while ago. So they're
yeah,
your words, but they mean what I mean by them when I say it,
yeah,
which is I am now a guy who keeps his promises to himself. And that sounds weird, but I think a lot of people don't keep promises to themselves. I think a lot of people say things and then give themselves a pass because they're internal promises. No one knows you broke them. But it was hurting me so badly to keep breaking promises to myself.
yeah,
And the second thing is what you just referenced, right? Which was unexpected and not something I was trying to do, right? I I, um, I was deeply moved when some guys, I'm not going to say who, but some guys that I know well, but I know well in a professional capacity, right? They're not my buddies like that I hang around with in my private life where we already have conversations about stuff like this. They're actually people I would not have conversations with this sort of stuff, but the people I know well at work, I respect, that I really like working with, saw what I wrote, actually what you wrote and what I then commented on afterwards on LinkedIn about the journey I've had with you, who felt compelled to act based on that. I mean, that was humbling,
yeah.
super humbling, right? I mean, lots of people said, well done, that's nice. And I mean that, it's nice, but I didn't do it for you. The people who actually said, I love this, and how, and can I, and can you help me? That man was crazy
Yeah,
because, as I said, right, I'm not finished. I'm not in a position to preach. I'm not a teacher of this. I am a student of this.
yeah,
And the fact that they still wanted me to help them, and that they've now committed, and that they are now part of the community, and that they are interacting on this and feeling the benefits of this. Wow, man. I mean, they say that, giving is so much better than receiving. Cliche maybe, it's true, man. I mean, that was one where it kind of like really like,
yeah.
I feel good about that, man. I feel really good.
You should, because I think I just make it clear. Like Dom did not want to be on the show for any selfish reasons. I asked him to be a part of the show because of the selflessness that he's shown throughout this process, and two, how it emotionally impacted him more so than his own journey to know that other men took this step for themselves, knowing that the pain these other men were in, that the challenges that they had facing, but they didn't have the solution. They didn't trust the path, so they didn't take the first step, and that his experience gave them the confidence to say, okay, if Dom did it, I'm all in. Because Dom's got a incredible reputation professionally. I think a lot of people always say, man, he's hard charging, right? Like he's very acute when it comes to like business and work and just getting it done. So the fact that he did this for himself in his own life, it was like, well, if Dom did it, like I'm curious. And so that's going to keep unfolding. He's going to keep inspiring tons and tons of men. And you've brought some of the best clients to Dad Bods because they knew, well, if Dom did it, I can do it. And how did Dom do it? Well, he just listened, asked questions, and he did, right? He didn't look for excuses. And so you led by example. So your reason coming on the show was you didn't want to do it from a selfish perspective. You were actually a little bit nervous, not to call you out, but you were like, I know that this might help some other men. And that meant a lot to you. So I applaud you and thank you for coming on the show for sure, because I know it's going to help a lot of guys. My last
Yeah.
question to you, Dom, is what's next for you, man? Give the people, like, you've gone through this incredible transformation, 30% down to 10%. You've gotten the right habits. You've gotten the right respect. You've gotten the accolades that people recognize and like, damn, look at Dom. And you make better decisions daily for yourself that show that you care for yourself. Where do you go from here?
I mean, on sort of the slightly, I mean, simple. Stay the course, right? I mean, you don't upgrade to 2.0 and then downgrade again, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
this was a one-way ticket, right? So
Well said.
keep going. My path is different to yours in the sense that and hear me out, right? It's so inspiring, and in fact, if you'd done it any differently, it probably would have been, it wouldn't have had the impact. I I'm not looking to I don't want to get into bodybuilding, right? What I want to be is I want to be strong and resilient physically, and I want to be able to keep up with my kids in everything that they do, right? My daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, and my 9-year-old boy, they mean the world to me. My wife does too. But as they grow and they get into everything they do, as I get older, I don't want that to be a factor. I just want to just keep going, right? I want to be able to, every time they say, shall we? I go, yeah, let's do it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one.
Yes, brother.
I want my kids to grow up. I mean, listen, thanks to my parents, my mom's still around. No matter what you can find to say that could have been better, you are the produce of what they did for you, and I'm not unhappy. But there's definitely some things I've struggled with in my life that I wish I'd had a more linear path towards.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to try and give my kids that opportunity, not to make it easy for them, but just to be able to be fulfilled and enjoy life as enjoyable as it can be sooner than perhaps I was able to. Um, and I mean this in a very sort of humble way. I want to be able to inspire others to be better versions, to be stronger men, to be able to contribute to their families and society more fully. Right. That's what I want to do. And going to find little ways of doing that all the way through. So it's not grandiose and everything. And on a purely personal sort of selfish basis, I've just set myself a few challenges this year. One of them is completely achievable. So I've signed up to a Spartan race in a couple of months, which will test some of the strengths that I've developed through the program. But if I keep the course on training, I will crush that. I'm not at all concerned. And then the other one, which is about strength, is I told you I've kind of set myself the goal for 2025 of achieving the 1,000-pound challenge.
Yeah.
That's a lofty one because I'm a long way away from that.
Yeah.
So that's going to require, again, that sort of methodical, where do I want to be at the end of March? Where do I want to be at the end of June? Where do I want to be at the end of September? And will I get there by the end of December? I will. But that's not just train and it'll be okay. That's like, I need to find a path there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I have goals for work, goals for the family and everything, but those are just some things I can call out.
Man, that's huge. All of that, you realize, like, it's not motivation. It's just about having a system in place that works and then becomes repeatable, and then you just keep pointing it in other areas. You know, like, okay, now I can use it to get this thing. Now I can use it to get better here. So yeah, I think it's been life changing for me. And my goal when I did this wasn't become a bodybuilder, wasn't become an influencer. It was like I was a headhunter. We still run the headhunting firm, but it was for me to get out of my own way so that I can enjoy that career and be a better person for my family. But in the course of that, as I started to help people, men around me specifically, and I saw how it impacted them, like that's where I would get choked up. And I'm like, man, I just changed a man's life. Like I've never had that feeling before. And that became the addicting thing that I chased in. And then saying, well, I've got all this time and I've got a system. What if I just started to apply that system to building an online brand and building a coaching platform? And that's what people don't realize. Like when you get this area of your life right, all other problems are attackable. They're always going to be there, but you have a system and you have a confidence that you can get through it. And you're, instead of always playing life on its heels, you're playing from your toes, and you're not playing defense, but you're playing offense because you've got a system that's repeatable and you've got habits that you create on a daily basis that you execute on that builds you into the person you need to be to attack that next level of challenges in life. And you just keep stepping up, man. So I'm super grateful. One, that you invested in yourself and you trusted me in the beginning of this process to guide you through this journey. I feel honored that I've been able to do that. I think your results speak for themselves. And if you guys are listening and you're hearing Dominic's story and it really hits home for you and you're recognizing, hey, this speaks to me and I feel like I should be on that journey myself, then just send me a message, write the word next, write the word Dom. I'll know that you heard it from this podcast, and we'll see if we can help you build that better version of yourself, just like Domenic did, just like I have, and many other guys. So Domenic, I want to thank you, one, for coming on here, two, for doing the work, and three, for continuing to set the example for the people around you and also the people in our community. A lot of people look up to you because of the results you got. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and Dane, I want to finish the way I started, right? Which is to say thank you to you. I mean, you have been and are a mentor to me in the things that I'm trying to do for the moment. But you are, and you mentioned it earlier on, you're also a friend, right? And I think that's the cool thing, right? Is when you work with people and then the relationship becomes multidimensional, you realize you're hanging out with your tribe, right? The right
Yeah,
people.
that's right.
So that means the world to me, right? I mean, you are a friend. You live a long way away. We got to make the in-person thing happen one day.
For sure.
But I mean, we interact every week, and I enjoy it, man. So thank you.
Yeah, you got it, man. Well, thanks for being on the show, Domenic. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you haven't, hit the like button, leave a comment, let us know what you think of Dom's story. And if you have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. I'd love to continue bringing you interviews like this and content like this from clients all around the world. Thanks for watching. Bye, Dom.
Thanks.